Hello YouTube, my name is Nero and today we have some Call of Duty Black Ops 3 playing a bit of Kill Confirmed here on the map Hunted, running around here with the Shiva assault rifle. And this is one of those gameplays where you and a friend just dominate the lobby, right? So my friend Zach and I are playing in this match and we just both do very well and we very clearly carry our team to victory, while at the same time we both have very good games against the opposing team. It was a very fun match and hopefully you guys will sit back, relax, and enjoy the video while we talk about change in Call of Duty. It's one of those things, right? Everybody always talks about how they want change in Call of Duty, yet at the same time, the Call of Duty community is a group of people that typically don't welcome change when it actually comes. Every single year, we talk about how we want change in the Call of Duty franchise. A lot of people make the complaint that Call of Duty is the same game every year, but at the same time, whenever they do implement some actual change to the franchise, there's always the same people that complain about change, how they liked the game before, so on and so forth. I've been playing Call of Duty for a very long time now. I think I've talked about that more than enough times here on this channel. I've been a big fan of Call of Duty for a number of years now, and obviously I've watched the transition of Call of Duty every single year, because every year the game itself changes in one way or another. The game I essentially fell in love with back in 2007 isn't quite here anymore. It's the same concept, but it's a lot different than what it was back in 2007 when I got into Call of Duty. That's just the very nature of it. You know, every single time they implement something new, that's typically something that's going to stick with the franchise. When they implemented changeable kill streaks back in Modern Warfare 2, that was a big deal, because back before that, when all we had was 357. You know, in Call of Duty 4, we had the UAV, the airstrike, and the attack helicopter. In World at War, we had the spy plane, which is the equivalent of a UAV, the artillery strike, and the attack dogs. There was just 357 in both of those games prior to Call of Duty 4 and World at War. The Call of Duty series didn't have kill streaks, so it was obviously a big deal. It was a big transition. All we ever really knew in Call of Duty was the 357 system, but Infinity Ward took a gamble. They changed the kill streak system, and obviously, what would Call of Duty be without kill streaks? One of the big things that makes Call of Duty, in my opinion, is the kill streaks. And I'm running some really nice lethal kill streaks here in this video, and they help me get a lot of kills. That's one of the things that really separates Call of Duty, I think, from other shooter games. Other shooter games, they don't typically have the Call of Duty style kill streak. They typically have some rewards for their players. They typically will have some kind of a power-up that they can grab or something that they earn over time, but just not the same system as what we have here in Call of Duty, where if you get X amount of kills, or depending on the game, X amount of score, you get this reward. That's just something that you don't see in other games, and it's one of the core defining factors of Call of Duty, and it was something that actually just wasn't there initially. Over the course of the past couple of years, we have actually been seeing a lot of changes to the movement system, right? We've been seeing a lot of changes to the movement system, as well as the unlock system here in Call of Duty, and I think that these changes are actually for the better, because again, it's not the same game I fell in love with back in 2007, but it still feels like the same concept, but with some new twists and turns to it, right? The idea of the movement system is one that was met with a lot of controversy when they first changed how everything worked back in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I personally wasn't a giant fan of it because it changed the game a little bit too much, in my own personal opinion. All the different abilities that we had while moving in Advanced Warfare just really made it feel less and less like Call of Duty, and it made it feel like some kind of a weird hybrid game, which I really wasn't a giant fan of. That's why I didn't really have that much playtime in Advanced Warfare as compared to previous years, and that's why I made less videos last year, so on and so forth. I thought that the movement system was a step in the right direction. It was a neat idea, but it was really rough around the edges. And so when Black Ops 3 came out, they took their twist, the Treyarch took their twist on the movement system, and they basically limited us compared to what we had in Advanced Warfare. It's a lot slower, it's a lot clunkier, and we have less control over it, and as a result, I think it's actually a lot better. And they also implemented the idea of wall running, which is something we didn't have in Advanced Warfare. It was a nice change. It was a welcome change, and I personally like it a lot more than Advanced Warfare, and in fact, I think it's a really good movement system in general. It's one of those systems where I think it would work well in just about every single Call of Duty game. Now, obviously, they built this game from the ground up to work with this movement system. Same with Advanced Warfare. That's what they did in that game as well. They wanted to make it so every map worked well with exosuits, and obviously that made it so if you played in a non-exosuit playlist that you were really hindered because the maps weren't designed to be played that way. But Black Ops 3, they designed the maps to be working with this new movement system, and I think it has turned out pretty well. I've said it time and time again, I feel as though Black Ops 3 is one of the best Call of Duties that we've ever gotten, and I feel as though it may actually be the best Call of Duty all time if you compare to other games that have actually tried to withstand the test of time. A lot of people have made the comparison that their first Call of Duty game is the best Call of Duty game, and therefore every game is going to be compared to that, and every game should be modeled after their first experience in Call of Duty. But that can never really be true. My first experience was Call of Duty 4. Can we really have a game that's like Call of Duty 4 again? I really don't think that we can, because even though Call of Duty 4 was glorious, even though I love the game and it's still one of my favorites to this day, there's no way that it would stand the test of time against all of these newer things. If Call of Duty 4 were to be re-released today and have 3 total kill streaks, one of them being a UAV, and then have 3 total attachments on the majority of their weapons, occasionally 4, and have 3 total camos for you to get. Actually, no, that's 5 camos, I believe. There was Desert, there was Woodland, there was Digital, there was Blue Tiger, there was Red Tiger, and then there was Gold as secret 6 camo for each weapon category. So there was not a lot to that game. It was very basic, right? So they couldn't release a game as basic as what Call of Duty 4 is again. And if your first Call of Duty game ever was, say, Black Ops 1, you're not going to have another experience like Black Ops 1, because they're never going to have the COD point system return in the way that it worked in that game. Obviously, the COD point system is here in Black Ops 3, but it's basically just an in-game currency you use to buy supply drops. If your first experience in Call of Duty was Black Ops 2, you're probably not going to see another game that feels exactly like Black Ops 2, because regardless of the fact that people say that Call of Duty is the same game year in and year out, it fundamentally changes every single year. There's something different about every single Call of Duty game that really sets it apart from the rest of the Call of Duty games. You look at Modern Warfare 2 versus Modern Warfare 3, it was a lot different. There were some very fundamental changes as to how the game was played between those two games. Even if you go back to Call of Duty 4 and World at War, I feel weird going back to that example over and over. If you go back to there and you try and say, well, those are two games that are very similar, 3, 5, 7 kill streaks, they're actually different in a lot of respects. There's no camos in World at War. All but one rifle in World at War was semi-automatic. The maps were a lot bigger in World at War. The attack dogs worked fundamentally differently than the helicopter did. It just, the games themselves were a lot different. Every single year, Call of Duty comes out with a new game, and while yes, it still feels like Call of Duty for the most part, I mean, even Advanced Warfare, I think I over-exaggerated earlier when talking about Advanced Warfare, because at the end of the day, it still did feel like Call of Duty. It was a lot different because you had all these crazy movement abilities where you could, basically double jump and glide up onto a rooftop, or you could, slide super far, or you could do all these kinds of crazy jumps and whatnot. Sure, it did feel different because the movement system was there, but at the end of the day, point, shoot, earn kill streaks, capture flags, capture hard points, level up prestige. It still felt like Call of Duty at the end of the day, but at the same time, it felt like its own specific niche brand of Call of Duty, which I think every single game does, which is, at the end of the day, guys, that's the best part about Call of Duty, is if you're a fan of this series, every year you have a game that comes out that still feels like Call of Duty at its core, but it's so much different than any other Call of Duty game out there, and that's what keeps us interested in it every single year, is the fact that while it still does feel like the same Call of Duty every single year, it's also much different at the same time, which is definitely a very good thing. And that's one of the reasons why I think Call of Duty is one of the most popular game series out there. We just talked about in yesterday's video how Black Ops 3 was named the best-selling game of 2015, and we went back and I actually did some research, and 6 of the past 7 years, Call of Duty was the #1 best-selling game of that year. And I think one of the big reasons why is every single year they managed to come up with just the right amount of new content and new things for us to do, while at the same time keeping it within reason. They don't go too far-fetched with it. They change it up every single year. They mess with the formula, but at the same time, that formula still stays just about the same, just enough within reason to make it so people feel comfortable while playing the game, and they can just adjust and adapt themselves to all the new mechanics every single Call of Duty game has. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I think Call of Duty is ridiculously popular, and why it has continued to be popular over the course of the almost decade now. That is going to conclude this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I hope you guys all found the video helpful, informative, as well as entertaining. And if you did, drop me a rating wherever you guys feel the video deserves, and of course let me know in the comment section below which Call of Duty, objectively, which Call of Duty edition was your favorite. Like, what Call of Duty did it right in your eyes? Like, what Call of Duty was the best one in terms of the mechanics and the gameplay and the level up system? Like, what Call of Duty was your overall favorite? I would love to hear about that. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Once again, drop me a rating. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.